You're watching Adam the Bull on the Bet Rivers Network.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. If you're not using the Bet Rivers app, you're missing out. Get the point spreads, the parlays, the futures bets, whatever you're looking for, overs, unders. We've got you completely covered here at Bet Rivers. In fact, just before I started this podcast, I went to look at the updated championship odds. For a while, the Thunder and Celtics have been co-favorites, and the Cavs had been, 1 point plus 1,500, 1,200. It kept going down and down and down. It's been plus 700, I think, for a while now. And in the latest odds here at Bet Rivers, the Cavs are now plus 600. We'll get into the Browns and what they may be thinking at number 2, 1 week before free agency begins. A lot of free agency coverage from me next week. The tampering period begins at noon next Monday, the 10th, and then, free agents can officially sign on Wednesday. So next week, a crazy week in the NFL, but will it be a crazy week for the Browns? Often it has been. I don't know about this year. We'll get more into that all coming up later and throughout this week and next week. But we begin with yet another big win by the Cavaliers. They win their 10th in a row. Improved to 28-4 at home and 50-10 overall by beating the Portland Trailblazers 133-129 in overtime. It's the Cavs' first overtime game of the season, and the Cavs are now 11-1 in overtime in the last 3 seasons overall. The Cavs, though, in this game, it was not pretty for much of the game. They were down big at the half, and they were down, 12 at the half, I believe. And then at different points of the third quarter, fell down by almost 20 points. But the always resilient Cavs fought back, had a great fourth quarter led by DeAndre Hunter, led by Ty Jerome, led by Evan Mobley. And the Cavs come away with the victory 133-129. Following up a great victory against Boston, also a game they came back from double digits on Friday when they beat the Celtics 123-116, dominating the second half after being down. What did the Celtics get off to? I don't know. It was 25-2. I can't remember the exact. I think it was 20. They were down 22 points, so maybe it's 25-3, whatever it was. They were down 22 points early in the first quarter. Looked like the Celtics completely had their number. Kendrick Perkins, as usual, talking out of his ass at halftime. And in that game as well, the Cavs with a great second half outscored the Celtics 59-42 and win the game, actually going away in the final minutes to split the season series with the Boston Celtics. And because the Cavs have a better conference record, the Cavs at the moment have the tiebreaker because they're 33-7 against the conference. The Celtics are 31-11. So the Cavs are up 8 games in the loss column. They have all but locked up the number 1 seed in the East. They've won 10 in a row. It's their third 10-plus win streak of the year. Nobody else has won 10 in a row. And it's amazing. It's really amazing what they've done. 1 game ahead of Oklahoma City for the best overall record in the NBA. Great chance to get to 67 wins, I think, go 17-5 the rest of the way and set the franchise record for wins in a season. But most importantly, looking for that number 1 seed and having the Celtics and Knicks have to match up in the second round. By the way, the Knicks, who have bounced back since a couple of bad losses, including to the Cavs, they're only 2 games in the loss column back of Boston for the 2 seed. So there's a possibility the Knicks could get the 2 and potentially have home, if they did, have home court advantage if they played the Celtics in the semifinals. Right now, the Cavs, as the 1 seed, would play whoever ended up the 8th seed. At the moment, it's Orlando, who the Cavs just took care of business against recently. But who knows? You're talking about play-in teams. All 4 play-in teams in the Eastern Conference are under 500, including the Bulls, who are the 10 seed right now and are 13 games under 500, which is a fucking disgrace. And, we can't have this in the NBA. I don't know why they had to go to this play-in. It was already too many teams at 8. Now they have 10. In the West, it's different. In the West, the 10 teams that are in, even the 10th team, the Mavericks, are all over 500. There's only 6 teams over 500 in the East, including the Pistons, which is remarkable. Obviously, J.B. Bickerstaff's done a great job. They've won 9 of their last 10 to move 7 games over 500. But the 4 play-in teams in the East right now, you got Miami 3 under, Orlando 5 under, the Hawks 6 under, and as I mentioned, the Bulls an embarrassing 13 games under. They're all under 500 in their last 10 games. The Bulls have lost 8 of 10 and still have a 2-game lead, one in the loss column over Philly. None of those teams want to make the playoffs. I mean, Philly, the Nets, the Bulls, yes, the players do. But anyway, let's not waste any more time on that. Cavs averaging 123.1 points per game after the latest win over Portland. Only Memphis at 123.2 is doing better. The Cavs, however, are allowing 5+ less points than the Grizzlies have. Cavs, as I mentioned, getting star performances over the weekend from guys you wouldn't necessarily expect. On Sunday. On Friday, it was the Donovan Mitchell show. Obviously, he went bananas in the fourth quarter, had 41 points, 5 assists, was 13 of 26 from the field. He played a great game and just a wild battle as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown combined for 83 points, but really nobody outside of Derek White, who had 16 all in the first half, or most of it in the first half. Nobody did much of anything. Cavs got 20 from Garland, who didn't shoot well. Mobley finished with 17 and 12, played well late in that game. But then a totally different story against the Blazers yesterday because Donovan didn't play. And once again, Darius did not shoot well. 4 of 16 from the field, 2 of 7 from 3. But DeAndre Hunter, who had 4 points at the half, finished with 32 and 7. Evan Mobley had 20 and 8 in this one, 3 assists. 14 points from Max Strus, who had some big threes late when it mattered. And then, of course, off the bench, Ty Jerome, 25 points in 36 minutes. Was 8 of 17 from the field, 25 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, 6 steals, and only 1 turnover. Remarkable game. Cavs shoot 41% from 3, despite the fact that Strus and Garland were 6 for 18. I know Strus hit the big one. The rest of the team was 13 for 28, almost 50% from 3. And so it was a balanced scoring effort. It wasn't about the stars. And the Cavs have won games here without Darius Garland. They've won games here without Donovan Mitchell. And they've done it, not in yesterday's case where the Blazers aren't a very good team, but they've done it against some good teams along the way. The Cavs are just playing outstanding basketball. There should be no reason why they can't win the NBA title. Obviously, the Celtics are the biggest threat. Porzingis did not play in that game Friday night. And he's certainly one of their better players. But Tatum and Brown did. Their 2 best players were there. Their 2 best players played great. And the Cavs still found their way to victory. The Cavs' next game will be tomorrow night. They play the Bulls. We know the Bulls stink, as we talked about. They got Miami. They're not playing a lot of good teams coming up. Chicago, Miami, Charlotte, then Milwaukee. Got one good team there on the road. And then Brooklyn. So 4 of your next 5 are against teams under 500. You got Memphis coming up and the Clippers. But the Cavs playing a lot of bad teams here for the foreseeable future until late in this month. Overall, a pretty soft schedule. The Cavs still have 2 with Indiana late, 2 with the Knicks late. You got 1 game with Detroit, the feisty Pistons. They got a game with the Clippers. And as I mentioned, Memphis and Milwaukee. But most of those tougher games are in late March, April. So the next few weeks, they should continue to pile up the wins. As I said, they've won 10 in a row and 14 of their last 15. Remember, they won their first 15. Then they, after dropping a few, they went 16 and 1. They won 15 in a row, 16 of 17, and now they've won 14 of 15. I mean, 3 remarkable stretches of 15 or more games that nobody else can match in the league. It's been unbelievable. And I do think that I don't. It sounds crazy because they'd have to go 20-2 to do it, but I don't think it's insane to think they could win 70. Now, in the end, they probably won't. They won't have much to play for late in the year, and they could probably drop some games late in the season. But the sky's the limit with this team right now. They seem to find a new way to win every night. They have great balance. They have great chemistry. They play well at both ends of the floor. There's no look at me. It's all about the team. Yes, Donovan can take over as he did against Boston, and we know he can do that. But he is not doing that all the time, and you don't want him to do that all the time. You want him to do it when he needs to, when there's no other options. And most nights that hasn't been the case. They haven't needed him to completely take over. But in a game against Boston, yeah, you're going to see that. A series against Boston, you're going to see more of that. He's played great. One of the all-time his stats against his scoring against the Celtics is all-time great. Now, he matches up with some of the all-time great players against the Celtics. He's been remarkable when seeing that green and white. So it's just an unbelievable job by Donovan Mitchell. So let's switch gears to the NFL. Everybody seems to think Adam Schefter a couple days ago said he thinks the Browns will pick a quarterback at 2. I'm on the Cam Ward bandwagon. I don't know what the Titans are going to do 1 overall. I think there's some people that think, well, the Browns should just draft a quarterback either way. To me, and I've admitted many times I'm no expert, but I listen to people that I trust. And if they're getting the information over the last couple of weeks, I'm of the belief that there's a clear line of demarcation between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and the Browns should do whatever it takes to get Cam Ward. And if that means trading up to 1, then so be it. Now, ultimately, if the Titans have decided that Cam Ward's their guy, well, there's nothing you could do, obviously. And then it'll be a tough question. Do you take Shedeur Sanders or some other quarterback at 2 just because you feel like you need a quarterback? Because if he's not, if Shedeur Sanders, if you're not convinced he's going to be a franchise level QB, you think he's just going to be a guy, just being, average quarterback, you can't do it. And this is coming from someone that's always pushing quarterback. Hopefully that won't be the case. Now, again, if the Browns think Shedeur is special, then so be it. Go ahead and take him. I'm not going to. If the Browns take Shedeur Sanders at 2, after Cam Ward goes 1, or if Cam Ward goes 1, I got no problem with that. But they better be sure about it. But here's the thing. If you make a mistake, it's not as punitive as it used to be back in the day where the quarterbacks had, the rookies got these huge contracts. We all know that was the case, but that's not the case anymore. And you could, as we saw with Arizona a few years back, if you make a mistake, you could do it again. Now you say, well, but you wasted that number 2 pick and maybe you could have drafted somebody good. That's entirely possible. But as I always say, until you have a quarterback, you have nothing. You're not winning a Super Bowl without a quarterback. It's that simple. It doesn't mean that's all you need. And well, the Eagles, they won because of their defense and they won because of running game. That those things contributed, no doubt. But ultimately, if the Eagles didn't have a top 10 quarterback, they would not have won the Super Bowl, because you can't get to the Super Bowl with bad quarterback play. You can't get to the Super Bowl with mediocre quarterback play. There was a time when you could, and even then it didn't happen that often. You can't anymore. So I'm never going to blame the Browns if they draft a quarterback at 2, even if it's a guy that seems, from what I've been told and from what some of us have heard, is not quite as good as the other guys. But if they believe it, they know more than I do. If they believe that Shedeur Sanders is the next stud, then so be it. Let's do it. But Cam Ward seems like the right choice. That's up to the Tennessee Titans. And I heard my man Nick Wilson the other day saying, well, I draft him at 2, but I'm not trading up to 1. I love you, Nicky, but that's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life. If you want him, you go get him. If that means having to trade up to 1, so be it. You're not going to have to give up a ton to move up from 2 to 1. You'd give up a 4th-round pick. Maybe you have to give up a 3rd-round pick. I don't know. But if you are convinced that Cam Ward's the guy, you're not going to not do it just because Tennessee doesn't think the same as you, because there'll be another team that'll jump ahead of you. If you just say, well, if Tennessee doesn't love him, then we could just wait, be patient, and we'll get him at 2. Well, no, because if Tennessee doesn't want a quarterback, they could trade down with the Giants at 3, still get the best player they want, and get something in return. So you might have to do it. You might have to do that and make that trade up to 1. That's entirely possible. One other thing in the NFL, 1 week from today, it's March 3rd, of course, Monday, March 3rd. 1 week from today, the legal tampering period begins in the NFL at noon. Free agency will start to go apeshit next Monday, and we'll be all over it, both here in the podcast and on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I don't expect the Browns to be huge players in free agency this year, and they have been in recent years. I think they will sign a veteran quarterback, but I'm not expecting that. Obviously, I could be wrong, but for the first time in a long time, I'm not expecting the Browns to be very busy those first couple of days of free agency. But obviously, next week will tell the tale. Finally, in spring training, rough start for newly acquired pitcher Slade Ciccone and Luis Ortiz. Ciccone, the former first round pick, who they got in the Diamondbacks trade for Josh Naylor. Ortiz came in that 3-team trade involving Jimenez and Spencer Horwitz with the Pirates and the Blue Jays. Both getting off to bad starts at spring training. Long way to go. I still expect Ortiz to be in the rotation. So Tristan McKenzie, his velocity's up, pitched well his first start, got bombed his second, but the fact that his velocity's way up to me is a major positive and something I'm excited about. Maybe we could see that guy who was really special pitching a few years ago. The regular season right around the corner, baby. Can't wait 3.5 weeks till the regular season starts. So stick around. We'll have plenty of coverage here, plenty of coverage on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian show. So a lot to do there. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Thanks to Tim and Alex for producing today. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. I'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See you, everybody.